So the government's announced this big shake-up for regional councils. They're proposing to basically scrap them, shift their powers to mayors and nudge local authorities to amalgamation. Wellington is one of the regions most affected. Andrew Little is the mayor there, joining me this morning. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good to see you. This would mean, if the proposals go through, it would mean potentially more work for you as a mayor, because you'd have to sit on one of these boards. Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, I guess what I'm discovering is there's a lot of dimensions to the mayor's job that I wasn't aware of until I got it. So there's a number of other sort of boards and committees you end up sitting on at a regional sort of level. So this would add to it. I mean, I think what is clear, the functions of the regional council don't go away. They have to get done somehow, somewhere. So we're talking about sort of governance stuff. Look, it would add to the workload. I don't know how that's going to be managed, but no doubt we'll get more detail as time goes on to see what exactly or how exactly that would work.
Do you reckon mayors should get paid more if they do it?
I mean, I think it's right at the moment that the Remuneration Authority sets the remuneration for mayors. I'm very happy with what I'm paid, so I'm not putting in a bid for any more at this point.
Do you think that there is a good case to be made for doing this, though? I mean, you know, speaking to players on both sides of politics, everyone agrees that there's some dumb stuff and duplication that happens that probably we could do without.
Look, I think the way it's sort of evolved over the last 30 or 40 years with planning, environmental planning and environmental rules that then need to be enforced, the whole lot has got very complex and very complicated. I think everybody wants greater simplification. I think that objective is really important. And it is a bit silly, and it's less a regional council issue, more just when you've got groups of councils close to each other, such as we have in Wellington with Wellington City Council, Lower Hutt, Upper Hutt and Porirua, all with different rules when it comes to construction, when it comes to environmental issues. It certainly makes sense to have some greater rationalisation for all that sort of stuff. Whether that means that the regional council doesn't have a role to play, I'm not sure, because they do all the transport planning. People travel into Wellington from those other towns and cities to work here and they need to get back again. It's better to have an authority that does all that planning. So as I say, the work doesn't go away. It's really just a question of how it gets governed and who's accountable for it. And
well, it'll be you.
We just have to work our way through.
It'll be you soon. Hey, apparently, the 330 staff, this report that's come out saying that Wellington Council's overstaffed to the tune of 330 people. Are you going to should we get rid of them?
Yeah, I think the figure was a comparative figure looking at what they described as comparable organisations. What we don't know from their analysis is of the other councils they benchmarked Wellington City against, how many contract out services, so they don't have the staff on their books in places where we do. Look, I think the Deloitte report has been very helpful to identify areas where we do need to get better, more effective, more efficient. There's no question there does need to be change. And the current chief executive and the leadership team are making changes. They're not filling vacancies. They're doing those sorts of sensible things. We'll now get our teeth into this and see what changes we need to make. I'm very clear we need to reduce the cost of council to Wellington residents. We need to reduce the level of rates increase scheduled for next year. And that's the objective that we've got.
And that means job cuts, Andrew, doesn't it? Realistically.
Yeah, well, in a sense that has started. A whole bunch of roles that have been left vacant are not being filled, and we will continue that kind of natural attrition. Where it comes to, if we decide that there are functions we just no longer want to do, obviously we will manage that. We'll do that closely with the workforce and with the unions, make sure that we're observing proper process in that respect.
All right. The Golden Mile, last time we talked, and I know that it's been paused, but last time we talked, you were talking about going to the government and negotiating what part they were going to pay, weren't paying, whatever. How have those talks gone with them?
Right, we haven't had any talks specifically about that. I've met with ministers about a range of things. I think there's a sense that we do want to work together, we want to cooperate. In addition to the Golden Mile, we now have the big State Highway 1 sort of project, the second Mount Vic Tunnel, Terrace Tunnel, all that sort of stuff. We have to negotiate over some conditions about that. There's some other things that the government wants to do, particularly in relation to housing. So we want to have a talk about that. So there's a bit of a package of stuff coming together anyway. That will be fertile ground for discussion, but that'll be a few months away yet.
Andrew, when you were leader of the Labor Party and graciously stood aside before the 2017 election so that Jacinda Ardern could come in, I mean, I don't think Luxon's polling as badly as you were polling then, but I'm just curious, like from a non-partisan political kind of perspective, whether you think he's at that point yet.
Look, it's not really possible for me to say that I made the judgment call I did based on what was in front of me, and it was low poll numbers, and they'd been falling. It was the fact that Jacinda was there and she was rating very well, and there was a good public response to her, and we had other talent around the Labor caucus as well. What political leaders do at any time is up to them. Ultimately, it's about keeping public confidence in your party. If you're in government or you aspire to government, you need that public support, and you've got to look to that. So what politicians of the day do is a matter entirely for them.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to get you to say anything you don't want to say, but it was important. An important part of that equation for you was not just where your polling was going down, it was the fact that Jacinda's was doing quite well, like there was someone else obvious in the wings, right?
Yeah, and it was clear that people quite like some of the policies we were talking about. They just didn't connect with me. That's just a reality I had to accept. And they clearly were connecting with Jacinda and I. Jacinda and I done a number of public meetings over the months leading up to that, and she was getting a really good response. So she had a connection and a charisma that I didn't have, and I accepted that, and we made the change, and the rest, as they say, is history.
It's quite refreshing to hear you talk like this. Not that you haven't spoken like this before, but to get a politician to say, a lot of people didn't really like me. Does it hurt?
No, I did at the time. You feel it at the time, of course. I think one of the things I've learned through roles I've had, union leadership role, other roles I've had, is one of the qualities of leadership that's most important is self-awareness and self-knowledge. The self-awareness thing is about understanding the impact you're having on others. And if you're having a negative impact, you've got to be alert to that, and that is going to limit what you can do. So it's just being realistic about that.
Wise words, as always, Andrew. Thank you. Lessons I'm yet to learn, obviously. Andrew Little, Wellington, we appreciate your time.
Don't believe it for a moment.